it's 7:10, 10 minutes past 7 rather. You're listening to Sunny Shay on Sunday the 8th of June on BBC London 94.9. Now, our next guest is not only a lady with one talent, in fact, she's a lady like most of many talents, and
Just
I
like
do
you,
love
Shay.
that.
Just like you. Yes,
Thank
you have
you.
many talents.
I do
One of them
indeed.
which is not listen to your husband, but that's okay, we can work on that.
Exactly, that's what every married woman should do. But our next guest, she's a singer, she's an art collector, a philanthropist who recently published a book of Urdu poems with transliteration in English and Hindi, and it's entitled Dishnagi, and she goes by the name of Minu Bakshi, and she joined us in the studio. Welcome to BBC London 94.9, Minu. How are you this evening?
Thank you.
Listen, Minu, you've brought in your beautiful book. Just explain, what does Dishnagi mean?
Dishnagi means the thirst.
The thirst.
It is a quest. But literal translation would be a thirst, yeah.
Now,
Thirst.
you are a woman of many talents, and you find yourself in a position where you are on BBC London 94.9 with Sunny and Shay, with a beautiful book that's translated into 3 different languages within the same. I've looked at the book. It presents itself so beautifully. Visually, it's a beautiful thing to look at, and when you see the poetry, is this original poetry of Urdu poetry, or is it some kind of translation of poetry that you've been inspired by?
No. This is my poetry. It's my own writing. It's the journey of my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it's transliterated, not translated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a correction. But of course, it has difficult word meanings as a glossary under every page. But it is written in the Roman script, the Devanagari script, and the Urdu script.
So this is why sometimes this is where when we're even translating, like me and Shay do for the audience, is when we're even translating a film title from Bollywood, for example, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, and if we were going to translate that to English, is sometimes there's sadness and sometimes there's happiness, and even then it's lost in translation.
Absolutely,
right?
totally.
So that's why I was thinking that when you're translating something, does your poetry sometimes lose its potency when you are going into a different language?
Totally. Which is why I don't actually attempt to translate. I have, even though I'm myself the author and I know exactly what I'm saying, but I try to do that in English or in Spanish, which is my other language that I'm an expert of. It doesn't come the same. It doesn't. So
I have to ask you, because what I find with Urdu poetry is it's so deep and meaningful. One word can have 3 or 4 meanings. When did you know that you had the talent for publishing Urdu poems? Because you've got such a large, wide fan base. But when did you know yourself that this was an urge for you, that you wanted to publish your poetry?
Well, the urge of writing came to me when I was very young. So this whole book, which is such a big book, so the writing has been over many, many years. But the publishing came when I just showed my manuscript to Mr. Muzaffar Ali, who's a well-known Urdu filmmaker and connoisseur of Urdu poetry, and he sort of said, this is not just to be kept at home.
Nice.
Must take it to the people, and that's when I decided to publish it. Yeah.
Now, I'm a big fan of Nusrat Ali Khan ji, and he's someone who's taken the Sufi language and also some of the rags that came out of Persia and what have you, and Punjabi, Hindi, and he used to do his qawwalis in so many different ways and his poetry in so many different ways that Urdu became one of my favorite languages to learn.
Sure.
And for love, in English we have one word for love. I love my dog just as much as I love my wife. I love my food. There's just one word.
That's right.
Whereas when you speak of love within Urdu, Punjabi, Hindi, and even Tamil, there's like several different words for love.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So when you were growing up, when you were looking and getting, your mind was exploring itself and finding yourself.
Right.
Where was your voice coming from? Where was your influences coming from? Was it from people like Nusrat Ali Khan ji, or was it from other poets or other texts?
Nusrat is a singer, so he sings other people's poetry.
Right.
My inspiration came from the other poets, the poets that I read.
Right.
Because he sings other people's stuff, and to write, it's different. So I read a lot of Urdu poetry, and I heard a lot of songs like Nusrat who sang, and tried to sort of get into the depth of the language. That was the first thing, and I had to study very hard for it because I'm a Sikh. It's not the language I speak at home.
Exactly.
So,
You're the same boat.
Yes,
the same
exactly.
Because when I'm telling Shay, in this one sentence, you could write a whole English song on that one. Do you know what I mean? You said it all in one sentence.
That's true. which is why it's impossible to translate.
Yes.
I mean, of course, it has been translated, but a good translation is very hard to combine.
They certainly are. We are going to ask Meenuji to perhaps read one or two lines of her poetry from her new book, which is titled Dishnagi, which means the thirst. Minu Bakshi, who is also a professor of Spanish. She happens to be Punjabi, Sikh, but she has published a new beautiful book which is called Dishnagi, which is actually a collection of all of her poetry, and it's in Urdu. So Minu, I'd like for you, if you're happy to, say a couple of lines of some of your poetry which is published in the book.
Yes, of course. I'll read out something for you. It's in Urdu, obviously, so...
Yes,
that's
please,
fine.
go for it.
आज तो दिन भर तेरी तस्वीर हम देखा किए, आज तो दिन भर तेरी तस्वीर हम देखा किए, यानी अपने ख्वाब की ताबीर हम देखा किए। हमने देखा ही नहीं आंखें उठाकर समते गुल, अपने दिल का जख्म दामनगीर हम देखा किए। आज हम देखा किए चश्मे सितमगर को खजिल, आज अपनी आह की तासीर हम देखा किए। हमने तो देखा नहीं अपनी रजा से कुछ यहाँ, जो भी दिखलाती रही तकदीर हम देखा किए।
Wow.
Beautiful. What is the title of that poem?
No, I haven't really given titles
Okay.
to the poetry, but there are chapters, so
Yes.
a certain kind of poetry goes under one chapter. So.
Now that one clearly is
Stunning.
about love and life within the same, because if you can
That's
understand
right.
Urdu,
Yes.
there's two things
Yes.
going on there.
Yes.
And that's why I love poetry when it comes to Urdu poetry. Is one minute you think you're going on a journey with this poetry, thinking, oh, he's talking about a woman, and then all of a sudden it takes you to a different direction. You think, oh, I can apply the first part to life as much as I can do to love.
Yeah, but that's the speciality to the genre, the ghazal.
Right.
So if you
Yes.
do a nazm, which means then you have to carry the theme forward throughout the poetry. But a ghazal is one such element where every couplet is independent. So you
Brilliant.
can talk of social issue, you can talk of your love, you can talk of life, you can
Yeah.
talk of God, all in one. So,
And this has been in the making for how many years?
all my life, actually.
All your life. It's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. I can't wait to read more about it. Where can I buy this book if I wanted to
You
find
can
it
get
online?
it on the Amazon, on the Flipkart. Well, you could go on my website and we send it also if it's
So the
ordered on-
website is Minu Bakshi, which is spelled MINUBAKSHI.com.
That's right.
So it's MinuBakshi.com. Listen, so lovely to have
Thank
you
you
in.
so much.
Thank you very
And
much.
congratulations, it's a beautiful book, but also it's something, for me, very rare. I don't often get to hear Urdu poetry, so it's so lovely to hear that.
I would like
Thank you
to
so
just.
much.
I would just like to say, next time you come in, maybe you could do an audio version of it with a little
Yes.
music in the back.
Yes, but if somebody goes to my Facebook page,
Yes.
there is poetry, like you see the print of the poet and you see my voice reciting it.
I wanna
Right,
go
you'll
to
hear
that
it. So
website.
you could
I
try
wanna
that.
go there because
so
I
it's,
really
it's
like
Minu
that.
Bakshi page on
Oh,
Facebook.
perfect.
So.
Facebook.com /Minu Bakshi.
That's right.
Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you very much.
The book is called Dishnagi at the Thirst and is out now.